I'm talking about, with each of my guests, real-life American culture. This is not some bloated, overproduced mass media conglomerate. This isn't even polished. This is raw.
Welcome to Deep Americana. Today I'll be coming to you from the city of Maize, Kansas, or the outskirts of Wichita, Kansas, interviewing Mr. Dick Nicholson, who is not only has knowledge in farming, knowledge in, creative arts, he makes lots of music. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Dick Nicholson. Dick Nicholson?
Hello, people. Hello, objects.
Yeah. So I have Dick here. So Dick, let's start out. Can you give me some background to Maize, Kansas, perhaps?
It was an aristocracy, small town, rich rule and the poor to rule, typical jocular, severe right-wing, racist scum type town.
Now, did you ever encounter any, anti-Semitic, or, people bullying you, or, trying to kick your ass?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, what was it like going to school here?
Violent. But, no guns. Punching and kicking.
Right, so say that you're going to school there, and you came in, and you might look ambiguous. You think you'd get probably beat up for that?
Yeah.
Did you, what were your experiences like? Were there a lot of fights, or?
Yeah, there was constant fighting. Constant bullying. I got my first fight in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
There's a bully that used to always, beat me up, and so I was taught non-violence, and, you never, ever, you never fight back. That is the worst thing you could ever do. You run or go tell teacher. However, my older cousin said that's bullshit. If you stand down to one bully, you got two tomorrow. You got to nip this in the bud, and you got to kick their ass.
I'm of a mind to agree with your cousin.
And if you at least fight them. Of course, the bullies are cowards, so they don't want to fight. They just want to hit and not be hit. So merely hitting back. But anyway, my first fight I won.
So the bullies just wanted they didn't want opposition. They just wanted to get the high of pushing someone smaller or someone
They felt
less
very
valuable.
bad about themselves, and
right.
It helped their self-esteem.
Now do you think you saw that a lot, right? So you think that's kind of ingrained into this if you will, backwoods culture of that time, right?
Oh, absolutely,
yeah. Yeah.
Nothing feels so great as the first time you kick some fucker's ass who deserves it.
Right.
I made the bully cry, and he ran to teacher.
Well,
which is what I was supposed to do, and I got in all kinds of trouble.
Right. So what? Moving into different spectrums here, what was it like to? This was a thriving farm at one point, right?
Mm.
So what was it like growing up on a farm, Dick?
It was awesome. It was it was like the wetlands back then. It was like before Colorado dammed the river and other factors dried this place out. So it's no longer wetland, so it's super abundant with life.
So it used to be wet, like swampy here. And then,
to some degree, yeah.
Well, but then didn't we lose, wasn't a lawsuit in between Kansas and Colorado over that dam, right?
We won the lawsuit, and they're like, whatever, we're not going to do anything just because you won, so we had to take it to court. It took about 10, 12 years. And I don't know if that's the entire factor, but certainly the abundance of life is, nothing like it was.
I can almost imagine waking up and looking outside, right? And you could probably see deer running around a lot more than you can today.
Almost every morning, yeah.
Yeah, man. And that's for the listeners, that's a beautiful experience to observe nature like that, something that's so delicate that if you breathe, it's gone.
Well, yeah.
Would that be a good categorization?
Yeah, we see out the window. There's lots of animals I didn't see till later, like wild turkeys.
Oh, yeah?
But some animals are gone.
Like what animals?
I think they're called rat snakes, like 5-foot snakes.
Oh, no, yeah, no. I used to have one in Oklahoma, yes.
Yeah, I love those things. And no more cottonheads, or cottonmouths, and what's the other, copperhead and cottonmouths. We had those on the farm. gigantic dragonflies that are no longer around.
Just wild chickens?
They're really weird. They have these like things on their chest that when they're scared or threatened puff out like breast.
Yeah.
And everything.
I mean, you actually looked that up at one point. So, did you ever like help your dad directly, like farming with the what did you guys farm? Like, did you farm cows, chickens?
Cows, chickens, pigs.
About how much land do you think
Wheat.
that your parents had?
I don't even know. I always
Yes.
confuse on acres. I'm guessing
100?
no, a lot more than that. 400,
Oh shit! Wow, 400 acres.
something like that. I mean, we got like, like 30 or 40 acres for sale down that.
Right. Well, and so that kind of leads me into let's open that up a little bit. So, but now, okay. So fast forward, or can you tell us kind of, the farming has declined. Obviously, nothing's really being farmed. So, like, let's talk about kind of the decline of income and people trying to buy stuff from you guys. So when did that start? Do you think, like the decline on income? What?
It's a matter of money. Like the family farm died, and he was already in trouble in the 70s. By the 80s, it was basically a gone deal because you can't make a living off a farm unless you have the $1 million combine and with the $5,000
So
tires.
if you can't keep up with the equipment,
You
then
can't
you
compete.
can't. Well, basically, you're growing something you can't go out and harvest, right?
We can't. You can't compete. Basically, you don't have the superior tools. So the new farmers are the millionaire farmers.
Right. They kind of corner the market.
Yeah, they got the equipment. They can, like
Well,
we
now-
lease our land to
Right.
out farmers, and
So how does that work? Do you know? Leasing your land to other
it's
farmers?
like a contract. You get a certain amount of money, and whatever you agree on for.
So you get a percentage, a cut off the top of what they actually make, but they get the
that's
majority?
sharecropping. We used to do that. Sharecropping
Oh,
is
it's different.
it's two
Okay.
different things. Sharecropping is we got the land, you do the work, and you give us a fair share.
Yeah,
Of course, that
percentage.
doesn't happen, but
So what is so in sharecropping, does the person who owns the land get a bigger profit? Is that the difference?
no, they get far less.
Okay.
60-40. They get
What was
40.
the other?
But it turns out to be probably less.
Well, what are
with
your-
the thumb on a scale? It's
You're not
less.
sharecropping now, right?
No, we're leasing now.
Okay, so with leasing, they just give you a flat fee, like
Yeah,
renting
flat
it,
amount, let's agree to.
which
just
is far
more
less
money
money, huh? No?
I don't know. I'm not even sure.
Okay, that's okay. That's
It's
fair
probably
enough.
similar. We don't pay tax. We don't even pay.
No.
Our land doesn't even. Doing that doesn't even pay taxes. On
Right.
the
Oh,
property
wow.
tax. Well, we live in a city now. Like a few years ago, we
Right.
were in a county.
Well, no, yeah, that's what I was going to get to here.
So we pay city. Like it's like having a whole bunch of city lots. So. Taxes went up extremely.
So you guys are, it's almost like you have 20 houses on the property you're having to pay for, even though they're not there, just due to the sheer size of the property,
Yeah.
which is complete BS.
Yeah.
What about this? I don't remember, how long that I've known you, right? But I imagine it's probably close to a decade, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And so when I was first coming out to Mr. Nicholson's house here, it was all dirt roads. There was no other houses. There was two, wasn't there? Or three, maybe?
Well, there's houses,
But there's at least 2 miles in between them then. There wasn't that big, What I'm getting at is the city has reached out, and now there's like $1 million homes less than a block from where Dick lives. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you feel about that, honestly?
Well, kind of sucks in a way because these things always start the same way. They make a sand pit, so a bunch of sand, drop down the aquifer, drop down the water levels, so that there's less water available for things in general, so it's bad for the earth. And then they make these, it's better as a condo than it is as a sand pit, I guess, but, there's always a lake, it's always...
Well, I think they can pull more revenue,
Yeah, they have a big body of water, so therefore, it's cash, cha-ching. They find all kinds of artifacts and stuff, too, like...
But now, how does that, before we get into the artifacts, how does that play into what you're able to farm here? Okay.
We got a contract with the government to grow prairie grass, so we got to do that because we agreed by
Now,
contract.
how does that happen?
The idea of it is to reconstitute the soil and make it grow better, which is silly because this is a city now. There's not going to be we're going to reconstitute the asphalt is what we're going to do. We're going to spend all these years, it's like 9 years, whatever, 7 years.
Right.
We still got like a year left. But yeah, when this land ain't going nowhere but down, it's going to become a city.
My question there is, what happens after that year on the prairie grass? Can you grow other stuff?
Yeah, we're free to do whatever we want, yeah. If we do any development, if we walk on it, if we are caught riding all-terrain vehicles on it or anything like that, they can take all the money back for those, I'm not sure if it's 7 or 9 years, they get all that money back.
Seriously?
Seriously, so we can't do anything. If we
So
sell land,
it sounds like a pigeonhole to me. It sounds like a scam. Would you view it that way or no?
I don't know. It's some money, I guess.
I don't understand it to the level that you do.
It helps reduce the cost of the taxes. Doesn't pay the taxes. It reduces it. I just wish we could have got the Prairie Flower Project. That would have been awesome.
What's that about?
It's all these native indigenous flowers of Kansas.
Yeah, that would have been like,
The prairie grass never did well. By the way, for a while it was like 9 foot tall at its peak. It was incredible. I used to spend.
So that's just basically you're paid to do that to re-nourish the soil?
Yeah, like I say, it's pointless because I imagine, that's typical. I mean, I don't know of anything happening like that, but that's the history of the world is. Kind of reminds me of Colorado, where you have these hippie communes, like like Aspen, Colorado was once a hippie, poor hippies, and then big tourist town, regulations and things will force them out. Can no longer can afford to live there, and all that. So I imagine eventually they would find ways to regulate us out of existence.
Right.
The farming act. Unless you got enough money, I guess you can't really probably keep.
Well, is that what it feels like is kind of happening?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Squeeze that. I mean, already taxes.
Well, can you elaborate? I know that you told me about a possible sale of land, and then you had another neighboring farmer who put his 2 cents in. Can you tell us a little bit of that? You don't have to.
Well, he was, you should go nameless, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, we had we're gonna sell the land for $120,000.
Do you remember how many acres? No, that's okay.
We don't get that much for acreage here, actually. Well, that land, this land's worth a lot more, but that land don't go for that much. But anyway, yeah, we had the deal all done. It was like, but the thing about contracts is you have a certain amount of time to break it. And so, my mother, being the nice person she is, told him, you might want to consider not seeding because that's gone.
But who did they tell that to? The potential buyer?
Well, no, the sharecropper who did the land was told that there will be no crops to share next year because that land will be sold. So he started driving around trying to catch the buyers.
The sharecropper was scaring the buyers.
Yeah, he told them all kinds of stories which turned out not to be true.
Like
what?
what?
You can't legally develop on the land, which you can.
Didn't he tell them that the land was trash or something?
There's a limitation to what you can do on the land, but there's room for a house anyway. But there's a water line and there's a power line, which limits what you can do, but there's plenty of room for a house. Easily a big-ass house could be in there. Right. So he told them that you can't legally build a house here, even though they could. He said, this is a flood zone. Now, it is on the books as a flood zone. The last flood was 1952.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a while.
So he pulled out every scare tactic stop you could to get them not to invest, or what?
Yeah, so not to buy land. And so they told the real estate lady that we here you can't develop land, you can't put a house here, you can't do this, you can't do that.
So she was addressing all the fear-mongering that the sharecropper was talking about.
That's all lies by a competitor who wants to get a cheaper price. And their response was, okay, we believe you, but this guy is friggin' scary, and we don't want an enemy like him who's a psycho.
So he basically drove them from wanting to buy it?
Yeah.
That actually is probably completely illegal.
I'm sure it probably is, yeah.
It's horrible. That would have done good things for you guys. let's get into, let's talk about this. And I always found this fascinating. And I've known Dick for many years. Me and Dick would go, well, why don't you start out about our rock hunting stuff?
Oh yeah, that's fun. Like the dirt road. Well, like the road right in front of me now is paved. It used to be dirt.
Right.
But yeah, I looked for rocks and found arrowheads and spearheads all my life and things like that, and musket balls and buffalo tooth and
yeah, I've seen all of these things.
Fossils.
I've seen the tooth and the musket balls, and it's astonishing. Now, when we're talking about that, I know you had mentioned to me before this interview that you had, I don't know if you found it or what, but there was a mound that could have been speculated to be a Native American burial site. Can you elaborate a bit on that for us?
Yeah, those are apparently sand hills, but 1949, a couple relatives of mine were jogging and they cut across this pasture, cattle pasture, and it had these hills. And there's a real bad windstorm which revealed a mummy.
Oh, wow.
And it still had a headdress on, is sitting upright.
So it was a Native American mummy,
Yeah,
or did you guys know?
Mummy.
Okay.
Yeah. And surrounded by arrowheads and spearheads. Probably one time the entire thing. But
Well, and this is pretty close to the river, right?
yeah,
not too
pretty
far.
close. Yeah, not too far at all.
So it'd be a perfect reservoir if someone was trying to live.
Yeah. So there's a big fossil hunt from there. The mummy was at Friends University for a while, but it's gone. There's no record of it ever
Well,
existing.
now, do you know for sure who actually ended up owning it? Was it the people developing land, or
No,
the
it
people
was
who owned it, or
given
what?
to the museum, but a friend of mine took archaeology, and
Right.
he talked to a professor and told him about that mummy. So he checked it out, and he said, well, it's not in record that any of these artifacts exist, or the mummy, but he says that is common. Like museums.
But why is that common? Yeah.
Because they steal the stuff, and the mummy gets taken.
Well, do you think it's that it's not only obviously it's stolen, right? But do you think that's to not show discovery or something of that nature, or that it could alter the course of?
I think just some guy
something?
wanted a mummy.
So basically, somebody wanted to own something off the books that
Which
could
is
have been
illegal,
of
of course.
historical reference and value to us normal peons here.
I don't think wanted to hide it, they just wanted to own it, I think. And
Okay.
those artifacts, it's like, they just took them. But anyway, there's a big feeding frenzy, and they found, there's a whole room, I guess, there's hundreds of artifacts they found. That was those sand hills, and my friend showed those grounds. And I still think there's something to it being a Native American village or something. Or
Right.
something, but, but he's, he's a leading authority on.
In Arc City, I imagine possibly the same guy your friend talked to has been out there excavating on a personal friend of mine's land, and they found a mythological Native American city there.
Cahokia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. And so that stuff still is playing out to this day. But yeah.
But he Google Earthed it. He told me the address, and he Google Earthed it, and he said, from all indications, these are just merely sand hills, and the reason why that mummy would be there is probably he's killed by a buffalo or something, or died while hunting, and the artifacts...
Does that make any sense, though, that it was sitting upright?
Well, he'd be buried in the sand.
Oh, okay.
Blown away.
Okay, I got you.
Those sand hills were epic. They were 10 foot high when I was a kid, and...
I think there was remnants of one we climbed on once, maybe.
Well, they're they're all compacted and small, but...
So you are diabetic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What type of struggle do you go through for your medication? I mean, is it an easy process to get medication?
No, it's medical mafia.
Tell us about that.
It's medical mafia in the sense that the medicine's good for me. I take what's called pet insulin.
Why would you do that?
Because it's legal. I can buy it without a doctor's okay.
Does it have anything to do with the price?
Well, it's much cheaper. It's about 1/5 or 1/6 or less. I mean, it's insulin's so expensive.
Do you need a prescription for it?
No, you can pick it up anytime you want.
And why do you do that? I mean, why wouldn't you go get the other insulin?
To get the other insulin, which would be so much better. I used to take 2 kinds of insulin, and my 24-hour dose and each meal dose.
Right.
Extremely expensive. Although if my insurance wasn't too bad, but it's affordable with insurance. The problem is you can't just have it. You have to see your doctor, and he say, "Okay, you get 3 months. Come see me in 3 months with no insulin."
So basically, your doctor is kind of like a drug dealer with it.
Yeah, he's like mafia. It's like
you
it's a
have
nice
to go.
business you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Right, and so it becomes a thing like this that, okay, they'd come in and say, hey, if you don't pay up, we're smashing your windows in. But in turn on this is saying, hey, if you don't pay me, you don't get to have what you need to live, right?
That's exactly it, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's... I fucking hate it, obviously. It's bullshit. Okay. And it's evil. I mean, it's just...
So I mean, and along the lines of what we're talking about, do you believe that anybody should be able to have access to this? This is not a drug that gets you high.
No, it's not a drug that gets
But
you
I mean,
high.
imagine if you could just go buy it and didn't have all these constraints.
Right. But then I wouldn't be able to get, I don't know if I can do it with insurance. Once again, I would have to have the doctor's medical script. Because...
Right.
Otherwise... Insurance won't cover it.
Gotcha. Is the,
without insurance, it would cost me about $180 a week.
Wow. How much is it with insurance?
It's probably, it's been so long since I've bought it, since I don't have a doctor, I don't know how to pay him. I'm guesstimating now it costs me a 3-month supply of insulin probably be about $240 or something like that.
Wow.
Which is much better than...
But what do you average? Okay, so with that being said, to get the good stuff it'd be $240 plus what, a $50 doctor's visit every 3 months?
$250.
$250 doctor's
After
visit?
Insurance.
No. Listen, doctor's visit.
Mm-hmm.
$250?
Yeah, that's how much it costs to see the doctor because he's a specialist.
You have to pay him $250 with your
$250, and I get my okay, and he has no interest in me other than, okay, since you came and gave me your money, okay you can survive another 3 months.
Let's get into creativity, and I'll try to be a guide in talking about that. And let's do this in steps. Okay, let's talk about your paintings. Or let's talk about where did your creativity come from? I mean, not just where it came from, when did it start, is what I mean. So when did your creativity start?
Farther back in my memory, I did sketching, or a child's version of sketching.
Right.
I had like tons of notebooks when I was a kid.
So you just probably constantly drew and just kind of experimented.
Yeah, that's the only thing I had, basically.
What did that evolve into?
Well, painting eventually, and just other kinds of mixed media, photography, music.
What type of paintings would you work on? I mean, like, what type of subject matter?
Occult, sexuality, things like that. My idea of spirituality at the time.
Cool.
I woke up one day and I was no longer a painter.
Uh-oh.
I mean, so look at it, overnight. I went to sleep a painter and woke up when I wasn't a painter. And
what were you when you woke up?
A soon-to-be photographer.
And what what creative life came about through your photography? I mean, what were your subject matters?
What were pictures of my friends and landscapes and multiple exposures.
Yeah, didn't you?
I have one studio. Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you? Well, I remember you showed me some things like with extra exposure.
Yeah.
Or something. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's an old analog camera with had a lens, like you can swivel a lens, so one end's totally black, one half of it, and you can swivel it to the other end. So you take 2 exposures, so here I am waving, and here's me jumping off a tree or whatever, but in the same, it's 2 of me, basically. It's a way of doubling things.
Sounds amazing.
Or multiple exposure, of course. We just take different exposures of the same picture.
So with that, how do you feel about like digital creativity? What form did that take for you?
Oh, I love it. Actually, it's great.
Did you ever like edit video?
A little bit. I'm not too good at video editing, and I've done too much, and I never really had a strong enough computer really to handle too much of that.
But didn't that kind of lead way into like music editing and things of that nature, or something? Maybe not lead way, but hand in hand or something.
Yeah, it's hand in hand.
So what is your passion in music? What is there something you're wanting to achieve? Is it just an expression?
No, it's just something I love doing. I think I love music more than anything else.
And what turned you on to music?
It's like most universal, I think, art form. It's like,
Yeah, and the way anybody can comprehend it.
I can enjoy hearing a song
Right.
over and over again. I can't really read a book cover to cover over and over again, or see a movie like that.
Right. Okay.
I think it's more spiritual than by anything.
Excellent. I know for several years, for a fact, that you ran a website called Infictive or Infictive County.
Well, I don't technically run it, but I'm a main contributor.
You're a heavy contributor. Can you
Yes.
can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was like an interactive. Started out as kind of an interactive fiction site. You know, like different people sign up, and
Wasn't it kind of like Pick Your Path to Adventure, would you say?
I started doing that. Yeah, I had the goal of. When I started doing that, I never actually read one. That's something I always was interested in the idea of. I never actually read a Pick Your Path to Adventure until a few years after that. But you know, concepts of pretty basic.
Right.
Here you are, and here's your options. So I set out to make the biggest Pick Your Path adventure on the internet. And I thought I had it for quite a while until I discovered Smutty Sex Romp, which had a whole bunch of mostly teenage contributors. I mean, like 16, 17 people working on this sucker, so it was like huge. It was like much bigger than mine. So I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna beat it." Just something to do. I mean, something to see if I can. So I spent months and months writing thing after thing on it, and I had it for a while. I had the biggest Pick Your Path adventure in the world. Paid no attention. I don't write on it that much anymore, and Smutty Sex Romp rolls on, and now it's just steamrolled us. We're nothing compared to that in size. I had a few other people working on it too.
So what goals have you achieved through making albums? Haven't you made like 100 or 1,000, or how many albums have you actually made?
About 246.
Wow. And what bands, I mean, what are the names? I mean, don't you have various band names that you work with?
I'm in two unbands, I call them.
And what would those be?
There's Philip K. Nixon, that's the biggest one. With Les Unruh, he's like the editor, producer, and I'm one of the people that contributes things to it. And there's Black Circle, which is, I started Black Circle in '84.
Okay.
But I'm the only original member in that. But I got my friend Alan, who's a Alien Scrim, who's a guitarist.
Now, with all of that stuff, kind of like, not kind of, but your music and your sounds, and that's kind of a mixture between like analog instruments and computer or digital instruments?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of that? About that process?
Well, when I first got my studio going, I was all digital. It's all software synths
Right.
and samplers and stuff like that.
Right.
But I got more and more into analog, and I read a book called what's that book called? It's the History of the Electric Guitar book. Can't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it talked about how Generation X is the last generation, the last analog generation, meaning that never again shall it be such a mass of young people who play guitar, who play an instrument,
Now, why is that? Due to the digital
Culture's
age.
changed,
right?
digital age and culture's changed, and so I worked to learn how to do this stuff. So yeah, we're not. I mean, it's not that millennials don't play guitar. It's
Right.
a very small percentage. It's like
Well, you don't have to anymore to make a song. You get Fruity Loops
Right,
or
yeah.
something like that, and you can have,
this is all good, but I love analog, and analog adds
analog.
life, it adds grit.
Well,
Adds
don't you think there's something to understanding, honing, and using the medium of creativity that you're using your hands and making a mark or a sound?
Yeah.
Almost like a caveman starting a fire is what you could equate it to now.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like, because I feel like that you should know these basic concepts before, you're thrust into this digital infinite, creative loop.
I just think that using, I use both, so I might have some loops and some software sense going, but I think just recordings are better with something analog. It don't matter what it is, like pigs squealing backwards in the background.
Well,
just
like Lustmore.
Something live, something real like that. Just adds
authenticity
texture,
no
life, a texture. I don't know. Like,
it keeps it somewhat organic, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, as organics.
How do you feel about like the terms low art versus high art? Obviously, low art being more of a folk art, and high art. How do you feel about those two terms? Do you feel that they exist?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like it's a real thing?
Oh yeah, and they're both great.
Do you feel like Okay, well, elaborate.
I don't necessarily want to be Beethoven, but Beethoven's fucking incredible.
But would you, with that being said, would you, like a lady, that can play spoons really badass, right? That's a street woman, right? Versus Beethoven, would you see one of them being better than the other? You get what I'm saying at all?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Right, I don't see that either. And to me, that's what high and low art are inclined to address in a lot of ways. It's kind of like kitsch versus non-kitsch.
But I have every bit of respect for the super talented, super slick musician who can do incredible things.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I just don't think that we should have, I don't know, do you think we should have like pedestals? I mean, I think it should be open.
Yeah. Well, that's like, the thing I like about folk art. See, as a redneck, I grew up around lots of, like my sister, for example, she drew all kinds of really cool sketches, and she never took art class. I always loved the creativity of someone who isn't... That's why I set out, like in music especially, I said I'm not going to learn chords. I don't want to know conventional chords. I don't want to do anything the way other people do it.
Right.
And there's extreme limitation, obviously, to this, because chords are set up to harmonically resonate in certain ways that are interesting and danceable, but thing is, I don't want a generic snake. I don't want to sound like anybody. I want everything to be different. I want to be my own culture. I think that's kind of influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien, the author. Mm-hmm. He was obsessed with the idea of creating, he did so much. He wrote so much language, he did his own languages. He had folk tales and songs and all that stuff. I'm not even that much into him as a writer, but that I was, as a kid. But that idea stuck with me in grade school when I read his stuff. The idea of and also, I kind of feel like I don't come from here.
Oh yeah?
I think I come from some other alternative world. According to hard science, there's stacks and stacks and stacks of worlds where you might have a slightly different colored hat. Maybe you have
parallel realities.
Maybe I don't have the soul patch and
different dimensions. Yeah, quantum physics.
So I don't come from here. So I'm trying to capture the culture of my people, which are very similar to your people. Extremely similar, but not the same. So my folk art is going to be what I do and blah blah blah. I just want to be my own culture.
So this has been my Ray Carney's interview with Mr. Dick Nicholson of Mays, Kansas. And we appreciate you listening.